Hello, and welcome to an episode of Making the Secret Teachings. People have asked me this question for a couple of years now. How do I make an episode of TST? Well, before we get into that, I'd like to start by saying thank you for watching, and I will attempt to do more YouTube videos. I'm thinking about doing a Friday night live stream for the Friday night show so that you have a video of it Friday night. And you can, of course, listen to the audio only version on Spreaker. The links are always in the show description, wherever you are finding the show, or if you're on the website, tstradio.info. So I don't want this to take an hour or two. I try to keep my show preparation to a minimum because it could go on forever. But I want to show you how I prepare a show, how I make a show. This is a listener request. How is an episode of The Secret Teachings put together? And so I want to show you what I do. This might be boring to some of you, and others might find it interesting or might find it intriguing. But this is pretty much how it goes. I start with a blank slate. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. But what I do is, as I scroll through the internet or I scroll through social media, I will pull up things that I will find interesting, kind of random stories or things that are maybe intriguing just in passing, just a thought, nothing too significant, nothing too important. It might be something that I watch on television. It might be something that I watch at a movie theater. It might be something that I'm having a conversation with a friend about, and something that my friend says sounds interesting. So I pull the idea. There are, I would say, an infinite number of possibilities for any show. If I'm starting off raw with nothing to talk about, and I don't mean raw as in Ra, the chief god of Egypt, but if I'm starting off raw and I have nothing to talk about, I'll go to Yahoo. I'll go to a bunch of different websites and I'll see if there's anything interesting that draws my attention. So I'll show you on screen. We'll look at Yahoo, not a particularly, I would say, credible news site, but it's all the mainstream information that you would see. I'm not sure why it's, there you go, not showing up on the screen. I think it is now. And we'll see what's in the mainstream news. So there's a story about Diddy and the sex trafficking trial. There's a shooting at a mayoral campaign. Story about seed oils. Here's a story about something pertaining to life after death, or something that happens upon the death of the body. People seeing a faint light. That could be a story. So I'll put that into another tab. And I'll keep scrolling through, and I usually do this pretty fast if I'm starting off with nothing to talk about, no ideas. I don't really see anything particularly interesting. Scientists raise alarm after uncovering growing threats circling Earth. That's a space debris story, so I guess that could be an interesting story, but nothing I really want to do a whole show on. So I keep scrolling. Don't really see anything that's pulling my attention. Famous tomb said to hold Alexander the Great's father actually contains a younger man. I don't know, nothing that's really pulling my attention. So then I'll go to other websites, and I don't do this in any particular order, but we'll go to like Live Science, for example. And oh, here's an interesting story. NASA satellites show Antarctica has gained ice despite rising global temperatures. How is that possible? I'm sure that they have some sort of explanation for why Antarctica has gained ice. Probably the same reason other parts of the world have gained ice, despite the fact that we're told that they're melting. It's convenient because they show us those things in the summertime, which is usually our winter time in the northern hemisphere. So, and I say usually in the sense that they usually show us these images in the summer down there, in the winter up here, and we think, well, it's winter. How could it be, how could it be melting? So there's so much ice that's been lost. And then when it's summertime up here and it's wintertime down there, the ice comes back in the winter, and they don't show us that. And of course, this is part of a larger cycle too, so they don't show us the larger cycles. But here's an interesting story. Maybe we could talk about the ice in Antarctica. Okay, so then I'll go to some other websites. Never use Drudge, but I guess we could go to Drudge. I don't really like using the Drudge report just to see what's linked up there, though. We could click on it and we could see it's obviously a lot of political news. I can already tell you nothing is drawing my attention from that. Here's psilocybin surges in the United States, the use of psilocybin. That could be a story. I suppose that could be something. And then, we'll go to actually sometimes if you go to In the News on Coast to Coast, surprisingly, they actually have some stories linked up that are they're interesting stories. Don't really trust Coast to Coast, but they have the actual articles linked up sometimes. This is just I'm giving you an idea of what I do to prepare a show. Okay, so then I think we're going to go with this satellite images show Antarctica has gained ice despite rising global temperatures, which of course are all based on computer models. So what I will do is these two stories here about death after, or rather life after death, or some kind of light seen after you die or as you're dying. I'll copy and paste these into a Word pad on my computer, and I will name them so that I have a reference point for later because I can't read the URL when I copy and paste it. And then I'll just save that to my computer. And I might talk about them later, might not talk about them later. Who knows? I'd like to say hello to all of you in the chat, by the way, Jaden, PT, and Leyland. And I'm sure that there are many others. I just haven't seen any comments pop up yet. We are doing a How the Secret Teaching Show is Made. So I like this article. I think that this could be a story. It's a big story. It's, I guess, a controversial story. This was a published article from a few hours ago. So we'll look at some other examples of this. I have a memory of there being a similar story relating to, I think it was Greenland. I'm going to see if I can find it. Let's see. Greenland ice comes back. New York Times article. No, not satellite. There was an article from about 13 years ago, and it talks about how Greenland had lost all this ice, and then they show the footage, the satellite footage or the satellite images of Greenland later, and the ice had actually come back even more. Well, here's a recent story, same thing that happened in 2012. This is Antarctica, though that's not Greenland. That's the same story. So sometimes these stories are hard to find if you have a memory of something from 2012 like I do. I could pull up, I have my hard drive here. I could pull up the filing system for the secret teachings, and it's something that you can also access if you're a subscriber on the website, the document archive, and you could scroll through it and find. I have a scan of that old New York Times article. If I can't find it with my initial search, maybe I'll go to Google and we could type in the actual date. It's probably been pulled from the internet, or it's just so old that it's not showing up. But we can search for it again. This is a story about Greenland, which is similar to this Antarctica story. Okay, so we could search, I think it's 2012, New York Times. I think there was a Daily Mail article too. So we'll type in Daily Mail, Greenland ice. Oops, I put an extra C in there. Greenland ice. And let's see if there's anything that pops up. Greenland is losing almost all of its ice. Greenland ice. Making comeback. This is how I prepare a show. Again, this might be boring to some of you, but it's a listener request. Greenland. I don't see anything. So that particular story was probably pulled from the internet. I do have a scan of it on my hard drive, but when something takes a lot of time to find, I try to invest my time very wisely. So maybe I'll just save that and put that on the back burner, see how long it takes to prepare the rest of the show, and then maybe go search for it on my hard drive. Okay, so we have this story about Greenland ice. That's one story. What is anything similar to that that we could pull up? What's the angle that we're trying to work with here? Okay, well let's think about it like this. Let's see. Greenland ice, this is kind of a climate change story. This is kind of I suppose it could be a story that also relates to something related to transhumanism, or I guess something related to, well, it's not just climate change, geoengineering. So those things bounce around in my head. The idea that we can change the atmosphere of the earth, the climate, the environment, that we can likewise do the same thing to plants and animals and humans. So there's a genetic engineering as well as a geoengineering story here. Okay, so there's something we can work with. And we're told that humans, too many humans, that's what's causing this problem of the ice melting. That's one of the contributing factors. Okay, so then I'm thinking, despite that narrative about too many humans melting the ice, in essence, here's the ice coming back. And then we know that all around the world, from Russia, type this in, Russia, Japan, Korea, North Korea in particular, but both South and North, have birth rate declines. And so does the United States, where the number of people being born is less than the number of people who are dying. Here's actually a recent story just the other day from PBS. Birth rate, it's hard to increase birth rate. What to know about declining birth rates in East Asia. It's not just East Asia. Why Japan's birth rate is falling, countries with the sharpest decline in birth rate. There's a bunch of these articles. We'll just say we'll pull the East Asia story. It might not be the only story, but at least it's a reference point for later. So I'll keep that in the tab there. And hello, David, who just joined us in the chat. Okay, so for those of you just joining us, we're looking at how I make an episode of the Secret Teachings. Scroll through things. Maybe I have an idea, and we found this article from Live Science. I check a bunch of websites. NASA satellites show Antarctica has gained ice despite rising global temperatures. And of course, we read stories that are likewise contrary to the overpopulation narrative, and that is why there are fewer babies, not just in Asia, but also all around the world, South Korea, Japan, China, etc. But there are stories like this that are obviously in Europe, in the United States. This is a global issue, but this is one story that's just as a reference point. Okay, so we got two stories there that kind of conflict with some mainstream narratives, despite the fact that these are two stories coming from mainstream sources. So there's a contradiction there. Okay, that's interesting. Don't those countries have programs to, or for people to go there to have babies? I don't know if that's true. And see, that's another thing. We see these kinds of stories online about what PT is asking in the chat, and I've seen that myself. Like for Japan, oh, that they want you to come here and have babies, and they'll pay for it. No program that I'm aware of does that. It's just clickbait, clout chasing crap on the internet. Not true. There are people that take advantage of immigration to Japan, or it's mostly 50% or more Chinese that do that kind of thing, but it's not what you probably have seen online. And I know that because I've seen the same things online. It's a good question, but it's, as far as I understand, that's not at all true. It's very hard to immigrate to Japan. It's probably pretty hard to immigrate to other countries too over here in East Asia. Okay, so we've got those two stories. And what else could possibly go with that? Well, obviously, geoengineering. That's going to be a big thing that goes with the climate change narrative, or why the ice is coming back. Okay, so I have this article I had seen on Facebook. I'll just copy and paste it into the chat. This is a really terrible website, LA Bible. It's a horrible kind of Daily Mail type site. But they have an article about 12 million tons of particles being shot into the sky using Boeing jets to cool the Earth. Okay, well, that connects with this article for a couple of reasons. One, let's have an original thought here. The original thought that I've had about this, and I'm obviously being very sarcastic, but the original thought that I've had about this, and I'm being serious, The original thought that I've had is as this idea of geoengineering becomes more accepted and becomes more discussed and talked about in the mainstream, eventually, what we are going to be told is that when we read stories like this that you see on your screen about Antarctica ice or Greenland ice, we're going to hear about how the ice only came back because of these geoengineering programs. Because you can't tell the public this where it's so obvious that the narrative is false. People figure it out and ask, what's going on? So, as more and more of the geoengineering narrative has become public and admitted, there's also been an acknowledgement that, well, there's actually a population decline. There's actually a lot of ice in the places we said would be completely melted and gone. So, instead of admitting that the whole story is made up, it's fake, it's wrong, it's meant to depopulate, although that's already happening. It's meant to demoralize, it's meant to deindustrialize, and a bunch of other things. They'll say that what's happening here is that the geoengineering programs are causing the ice to come back. And due to the fact that people are worried about the ice being lost or something to that effect, that's why people are not having kids in places like East Asia or the United States or anywhere else for that matter. That's the narrative that is being spun. Okay, so we have this particular story. So we're starting to build a show here. So some other ideas or some other stories about geoengineering. There's a whole bunch of them. Uh, one that always stood out to me is this article from New York Magazine. Let's see if I can pull up. I think it's sun dimming geoengineering. Pull that article up. There it is. There's actually a bunch of recent ones too. $66 million experiment to dim the sun to combat global warming. Okay, here's the New Yorker article. And I like this article. It's a very long article, but I like this article because this article, I think it's at the very end. They use the word vaccine, unless they changed it in the article. No, they do. Solar panels and wind turbines are our best vaccine against high temperatures, but also against the hubris of one more giant gamble. Now, that word is really interesting because to use the word vaccine in relationship to the climate change narrative and CO2, you think about it, what was the pandemic? What was COVID-19? It was SARS-CoV-2, CoV-2. That was the actual name of the virus, SARS-CoV-2. Although I don't think a virus made people sick, but SARS-CoV-2. So if you just take off the SARS and the V, you got CO2 in there, CoV-2. And I think they capitalize the V because it's a coronavirus. So if you just have Corona 2, it's CO2. So you have CO2 for a virus, you have CO2 for, well, what humans are to the planet, we're told or led to believe, and that is we are a virus, kind of like the machines say in the Matrix. Humans are a virus, we're a plague, we spread, we consume all the natural resources, and then we spread to another place. We're destructive to the planet, that idea. So we've got a lot to work with here because they're referring to green energy as a vaccine against high temperatures, a vaccine against climate change, a vaccine against global warming. They told us we needed a vaccine for COVID, CO2, CoV2, and now we need a vaccine for CO2. It's a very similar thing happening here. Okay, so we've got that article. We've got the $66 million experiment to dim the sun, and that's a recent story. There's also, I think it was, and I think this is probably the exact same story, but there was an article from the Blaze. Researchers advocate using sulfur block sun. This is all now a big story. We're going to use sulfur to block the sun. I talked about this like 15 years ago. They were doing more than that, actually. They were doing experiments, but I talked about it 15 years ago. They were doing experiments down in Mexico with sulfur. to block sunlight. Okay, so I think that's the exact same story as this New York Post article, but we'll keep it up. And then there's a bunch of older stories. So I think there was a story, I think it was Live Science. I'm just doing this by largely memory. What did they say? $75 trillion for geoengineering. It was a crazy number. Yep, scientists say oh, this is the diamond dust article. This is a great one. Scientists say we could sprinkle diamond dust. Talk about Lucy in the sky with diamonds. There it is. Scientists say sprinkling diamond dust into the sky could offset almost all climate change so far, but it'll cost 175 trillion. Not a big deal. We could write a check for that probably. 175 billion, trillion rather, trillion dollars. Then there was an article. There's a whole bunch of these. I'm just trying to think about. Scientists defend plan. Scientist, I spelled it wrong. Defend plan to launch sulfur into stratosphere. And that should pull up that article as well. This is, again, for those of you just joining us, our listener request, how I prepare a show. And there's that article. There's also I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. There's also, I think there's a Forbes article. I'm just trying to think of the more recent ones. Forbes, there's a Bill Gates article. Yeah, Bill Gates. It was Bill Gates venture spray atmosphere. That's an article that we could pull up. And I could sit here and do this the rest of the day. I mean, there's so many stories. I mean, I would open up so many tabs. I think my computer would freeze. In fact, I think it almost it almost is freezing a little bit. There's just so many things open on my computer already, not just the share screen, but in general, plus the stream. Oh, here's another why billionaires are obsessed with solar geoengineering. Bill Gates venture aims to spray dust into the stratosphere. What could go wrong? Yes, what could go wrong? And then I remember I had saved this article too. Copy and paste that. I had saved in a Word file or WordPad. Bill Gates funded chemical cloud could help stop global warming. That's CNBC. Okay, so basically we started with this about Antarctica gaining ice. I couldn't find the Greenland article from 2012, but I will pull that up maybe on my hard drive here in a few. So we've got that story. What's the angle? Well, they told us that one thing was true. It turns out not to be true. Oh, they also said that we're having too many people on the planet. We need to do something about that when actually people are having less babies. And then we pull up all the articles about the geoengineering and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the main body of the show. That's what we're working with right now. See, I don't get talking points from whoever it is that pays me, like these right-wing, left-wing influencers. I just do this myself. I just have a memory, and I try to impart that same thing to you as an audience. I'm hoping that I encourage you to use your memory and to use your intellect, to not use AI, to not use other people's talking points, and to not use the alternative narratives, because I don't agree with those. I have my own thoughts and my own opinions. Welcome to the chat, David, Lane, and Skyfish as well. Thank you. It is. I hope that it's a good look into how the show functions and operates. Lane. Some other comments. Skyfish said, seems like scare and fear tactics that will never happen. It seems it's the conscious fear that they're after. Well, yeah, we could talk about that angle of it, but I think that they've already done it. And I think what's going to happen is that it's going to be eventually stated publicly that we've already been doing these programs. In fact, I've got proof that they've been doing these programs. They've done research into these programs for decades and decades and decades. I mean, you can find articles from 2024, 2023, 2022, and so on. I mean, this one's from 2021. I was doing shows on this back in like 2012, 2013. So they've been doing this stuff for a long time. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, One, people are having less kids because they're genuinely afraid. They've got eco anxiety. That's already a narrative, by the way. And the ice in Antarctica is coming back because we're blocking out the sun. And then they're going to say we stopped climate change because of the geoengineering programs that were never real. They were always non existent, and everybody that talked about them was crazy, like myself and like you. And then when they admit it, it'll be, well, we weren't using these programs to hurt you. We were using these programs to save the earth. I think that's what's going to eventually be stated in one way or another. Okay, that actually reminds me of another story that I had read about Earth heading to into new ice age, and this is not necessarily a new story. This was said years ago by scientists, but we're due for another ice age. Here's the Weather Channel. Here is that's live science, 11,000 years. That's not what I'm looking for. Oh, and then actually, this is an interesting. Scientists match Earth's ice age cycles with orbital shifts. You think Earth's next ice age might already be on the way? Here's why. They say 11,000 years. We're due for another ice age, but climate change might push it back another 100,000 years. Well, okay, so even if we took this article, we're due for another ice age. I mean, that's just based on the record, I think. Yes. But climate change may push it back another 100 years. May push it back 100 years. Also, if you're spraying particles into the atmosphere, it's going to eventually trap heat too. In fact, that was one of the things that scientists had said might be a downside of geoengineering is that it might reflect particles, but it also might trap more heat. So if there is any artificial heating, it's probably because of these programs. In other words, tampering with the atmosphere, tampering with the environment and the climate's probably not a good idea. It creates the problems that they tell us are our fault. Okay, so with all of these articles pulled up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to exit out of this share screen because I have too many windows open on my computer right now. So we'll remove that. I will pull all of those up again later. So what I do is once I have all of that pulled up on the computer, then I will copy and paste them into a little WordPad, and I will organize them by name. And after I do that, I will start to go on the search. I will go on the hunt to find other things that are relatable. And the more I think about it, the more I read about it, the more things I remember that I think, we could pull that into the show. So I'm going to pull up my hard drive. I just plugged it in. And I see Patrick just joined the chat. Thank you, Patrick. Keep up the great work. Appreciate that. So I am going to pull up my hard drive, and I'm going to pull up in my hard drive. I don't know if you could see it, if I could share my screen, but let's see if I can find the documents. Let's see if I can actually share my screen and show you what actually I can show you. Okay, so this is my hard drive. These are my files here. And we're just going to go on the hunt. I don't know what it's labeled under. Could be climate change. It could be geoengineering. I have no idea. There's all kinds of, by the way, you can access all this if you're a subscriber at tstradio.info. You can get access to all of these files. This is years and years of research, which is why I always laugh when people ask me, have you ever heard of Freemasons? You ever heard of geoengineering? Yeah, I was talking about it. One of the people talking about it, not the only one, but one of the people talking about it before it was really popular. Let's see, abortion. That's not it. Let's see, a second file. Climate. Here's a climate article. Okay, so maybe does it show? What if it shows you the preview on your screen? Does it show you the preview? I have no idea if it actually shows the preview. No, it does not show the preview. If I pull up the PDF, it will. I don't think it's this file. Let me see if it's the other file. Oh, actually, you know what? No. It is this file. Okay, so let me close this out. I can't believe I found it that fast. Okay, so let me pull this up. You saw the files there, and these aren't like I would say official files in the sense that it's everything you need to know. It's just all the things that I've saved over the years, all the things that I put together. Okay, so let me share this with you, and you will see what I see and things from past shows that I have saved for the record. Because as the kids say today, although I guess I'm still a kid, as the kids say, I have the receipts. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got a bunch of records. We've got studies. This is by, I think this is the one. No, that's not the one. Um, let's see if we can scroll through this. Oh, yeah, cold weather kills far more people than hot weather. That's a BMJ study, British Medical Journal, in the reported on the Lancet, where they talk about way more people dying from cold than heat. Climate related deaths, you could look at the actual statistical data and where that comes from. The International Disaster Database, climate related deaths since 1920 are obviously on a very steep decline. A lot of reasons for that. Climate change, heat waves, EPA data. Heat waves are far, far, far below what they were in the 30s and 40s. Wildfires burn far less acres. These are all just kind of random things. Carbon dioxide is causing plants to have fewer pores, meaning that they're retaining more water. So they're actually more drought resistant with more carbon dioxide. They grow faster. The earth is actually greened substantially. This is even NASA global green up slows warming. Although they say updated maps show that the trend has continued, and researchers say reduced global warming is among the consequences. Oh, really? That was in 2018. It's in this file somewhere. This is just one of many. It's in this file somewhere. Oh, yeah, here's the hurricane one. We find that recorded century scale increases in Atlantic hurricane and major hurricane frequency, an associated decrease in USA hurricane strike factor, or a fraction rather, are consistent with changes in observing practices and not likely a true climate trend. That's Nature. It's one of the most prestigious. Hurricanes are more dangerous, but they're not more frequent. And they're more dangerous because you have more shit. That's why. And it's more expensive. Report on sea level and climate change. Let's see. This is just such a big file. Oh, this is a great story. 100 companies produce 71% of global emissions. Yeah, that's those 100 companies are also the ones that are telling you that it's your fault. Polar bear numbers are actually up despite that was a really old story. Oh, here it is. Okay, I knew I had it somewhere. I knew I had it. 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 Okay, so I do have the story. This is Arctic sea ice falls to record low. And they show you this story and how this is the New York Times. I think I mean, this is obviously a physical article I cut and I taped into the I thought it was Greenland. This is Arctic sea ice. Maybe there was a Greenland one, or maybe my memory's half off, half right, half wrong. Again, I'm just showing you how I prepare a show. This is how I do it off air. Arctic sea ice falls to record low. So they show you a satellite image, although I don't think that doesn't really look like a satellite image, but okay, maybe it is. In 1979, and then they show you another image from 2012, and they show you that the ice is far less. Okay, so this story that I was remembering is Antarctica, not Greenland. Um, Here's a 2015 story: mass gains of Antarctic ice sheet greater than losses, which then relate to the initial story we found about how it's gained a substantial amount of ice in the last couple of years. This is consistent. This happens all the time. Things melt, things freeze. Things melt, things freeze. There's sun, there's no sun. There's sun, there's no sun. Things melt, things freeze. It's just a cycle of how things work. Okay, now that we have that, I'm going to pull up a news article so I can find the other story where they show Antarctica. I'm going to type this in on a separate uh, web search here. Antarctica ice increases 2015. I think it was 2015. So I'm not perfect. I have things that I forget. Maybe, yeah, this is Science Daily. I could show you this again. I don't know if they have no, they don't have an image to it. Let me see if I can find. And again, when these things take a long time, I will just kind of skip them, maybe come back to them again later. See, 2016. If this is the article I will show you, Antarctica has increased ice while the Arctic melts. Okay, so there's the Arctic Sea ice. Then we have Antarctica. So we have the Arctic. I'm just, this is all in real time. So it's on a presentation. Uh, Antarctica has increased ice while Arctic ice has melted. I know there was a story that they showed another satellite image where if you looked at it at a different time of the year, it was actually greater than it had been before. But because of this recent story, that particular story is probably buried somewhere on the internet. But anyway, there's what I was originally thinking about. And so they show you these images, and this is August of 2012. Remember, we're talking about, depending on where we're looking in the world, different hemispheres. So that's part of the way they create the fraud, different temperatures, different times of the year. This file also has more CO2, 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 CO2. Okay, stop the file share there. Okay, so now that we have a pretty decent, I think a pretty decent show idea, got a bunch of articles, we can start to work on I'm trying to think of kind of what other angle we could take, because I don't, if you just talk about one specific thing, it kind of gets boring over 2 hours. So there's got to be another kind of an angle to it. They want to, okay, manipulating the atmosphere, putting sulfur in the atmosphere, blaming humans, saying humans are responsible, etc. Okay, well, there's another angle to this. There's another part of this story. So I just start thinking. We go back to the internet, start looking things up. Sometimes I have things saved parallel to this that I want to add to a show. So I'll try to find a way to incorporate them. And one of the ways I might do that is by kind of creating a two-part show where I kind of merge these two different subjects together. Excuse me for one moment. I think my Safari has frozen. My computer is old. I can't even believe it's working on the video stream. Need to get a new computer, probably sooner than later. Okay, see if we can pull Safari back up. All right, there we go. Okay, so I had some other stories that I had wanted to discuss for a show coming up here or there. And one of them pertained to the birth rate issue, which is, again, something we already pulled from. We pulled an article on that. And there's an article that I think is relevant to there's declining birth rates. Okay, so in the same way that we are told, or I'm thinking we're going to be told, that geoengineering actually is the reason why the ice is coming back in the Arctic or Antarctica or anywhere else, or they're going to say people have eco-anxiety, don't want to have kids. That's why they're not having kids. Or maybe they'll just say, oops, we didn't actually have 8 billion people. We had a lot more. We underestimated the number of people. So despite the fact that people aren't having kids around the world globally, and whatever the complex reasons are for that, and they are complex, and while the ice is coming back, and while the temperature is actually plummeting across the board, like we're going into an ice age over the next several decades, centuries, 1,000 years, etc., terms that we can't conceive of as humans that live as Americans, 76 years or something on average. Okay, so they then come out and say, "Oh, well, we just underestimated the number of people. There's actually far more people on planet Earth." It doesn't have to be true or false. It just has to be an idea that's planted in people's heads. So when you start going around saying, "Hey, by the way, did you know that people aren't having kids? Did you know that birth rates are falling in most countries? Did you know that not only are people not having kids, but obviously people are in older generations getting older and they're dying, so there's like this big discrepancy and we're losing population." And if you say that, then what you're going to get in response is, "Oh, come on. That would be true, but the scientists made a mistake. There's actually way more people on Earth than they initially thought." So, if there's a discrepancy of a couple of billion, they just make it up. "Oh, look, scientists may have severely miscalculated how many humans are on Earth." And I thought initially when I read this, oh, what they're going to say, this is popular mechanics, what they're going to say is that there's actually way less humans. And it turns out that it's like way more. They say, well, most estimates place the current human population around 8.2 billion. A new study suggests we might be vastly underrepresenting rural areas. Again, it's a study and it only suggests, it doesn't prove. Okay, they analyzed rural dam projects across 35 countries. This is from the University of Aalto in Finland. And they found discrepancies among these independent population counts and other population data gathered between 1975 and 2010. Such underreporting could have consequences in terms of resource allocation within a country, but other experts remain skeptical that decades of population counting could be off by such a wide margin. So they go on to discuss in the article all the specifics of the data and whatnot. And they obviously can't give us a specific amount. It's just like, oh, we think we really, really underestimated the number of people on planet Earth based on the number of people in these areas that we looked at and kind of overlooking rural areas. The species, Homo sapiens, they say, is the most successful mammalian species in Earth's history, and it's not even close. Species thrives, again, not presenting this, just reading this. Species thrives on nearly every continent in a variety of adverse conditions. Um, the rat is the second place. However, impressive nature of humanity's proliferation may have been vastly underreported. Most estimates place Earth's population around 8.2 billion, but postdoctoral researcher at Aalto University, Finland, and lead author of the study, claims that these estimates could be underrepresenting rural areas by significant margins. So if we could try to find, the actual study itself, let's see in the journal Nature Communications, pull the particular study up. Welcome to the show, TV test pattern, and who else we have in the chat? Some people I might not have mentioned before. Did I mention Brendan? Brendan, thank you for joining the chat. David, thank you for joining. Leyland, I think I said hi to you guys earlier. Malorcas 45. Thank you for joining the chat. Yes, trust the science. I trust it. Hope you do too. I trust the science. I really don't like cookies. I don't want to accept those cookies. Probably Girl Scout cookies. They got all kinds of flavors in them. Global gridded population database systematically underrepresent rural population. I could skim through this. You see how this preparation for a show could just go on and on and on. And I don't want this to go more than an hour, but this is the actual study. So I like to look at the actual report. Okay, but even so, without the study, like the idea is, oh, more people exist on planet Earth than we said. So even though people are not having kids, that's okay because we actually have maybe, who knows, billions more people than we actually said that we thought that we did. Of course, those estimates were estimates. These estimates are estimates. And we just kind of go about screaming and arguing in our little political circles about these kinds of things. So there's that story. And then as you can probably see on the screen, I had pulled up earlier some other stories that relate to human population, like, oh, we don't have enough food. We don't have enough food. Actually, in America, we waste a lot of food. And this is just one of many countries that wastes a lot of food. How much food does the United States waste? A lot more than you'd think. And it's not just this one particular guide. It's there's stories like this that you can pull up from, was it 2014? Americans waste about 50% of food. They estimate 60 million tons of food every year thrown out. Every year they estimate, well, they say 40% of the entire US food supply, 325 pounds of waste per person, is wasted. Uh, while the world wastes about 2.5 billion tons of food per year, the US discards more food than that, 60 million tons, 120 billion pounds every year, 40% of the entire US food supply estimated. And if you want additional confirmation of that, like, I know that number because I've talked about this in the past, but if you want to confirm, obviously just go and type in 40% of US food supply wasted, and you should be able to pull up other stories on it as well. Well, here's even the FDA says that in the US, food waste is estimated between 30 to 40% of the food supply. National Resource Defense Council, NRDC, super left wing. Okay, but you see that the US wastes a lot of food. So when they tell you things like, oh, we don't have enough food, no, we have food, and we have things that are food like substances. And yes, thank you, toxic foods. The things that are food like substances. But whether they're food like substances or real food, we waste food. And actually, what happens is we waste real food, and we tend to not waste so much the food substances that are substitutes, because those things, even though part of the 40% is expiration date issues, most of the time the issue is that people will buy a whole cart full of things, and because they feel, this is actually in the literature, people feel bad on average for buying all the candy and the cookies and the ice cream and the chips and the beer and the soda and all that crap. So then they'll buy a bunch of vegetables which go bad fast, and they stick them in their refrigerator, and then they never use them. So a lot of the food, and they're, vegetables are heavy. I mean, if you buy a squash and you don't eat it, I mean, there's like probably 4 or 5 pounds right there. So but different than a bag of chips that expires, that's maybe a pound. So if you throw that out, it's a lot more waste than the other junk food. So humans waste a lot of food by accident. Animals waste food too. It's just, but the idea here is, oh, there's too many humans. We have to do something about this. And then it turns out people actually aren't having kids. So they say, oh, there's actually more people than we said on Earth, right? There's more people than we said. And then they tell us the ice is melting. Oh, the ice is coming back. That must be because of the geoengineering programs. And that must mean because we just didn't have the right data back then. But it has nothing to do with climate change being a fraud. It has everything to do with we fixed the problem with the geoengineering, and there's not enough food on planet Earth. And then you're like, well, we throw 40% out in the U.S. and we throw a lot of food out all around the world, not just the U.S. That has nothing to do with the fact that there are people starving in third world countries. They just keep these narratives. That's all they are. They're narratives. They're narratives, 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 and they change. And if you have a memory, or if you listen to shows like this, then you'll know that. Flux Capacitor says they do think that the population of China is overrepresented as less than what they say. It probably is. Who the hell knows? But see, this is actually a good point here to make, because maybe the Chinese population is overrepresented, the number. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, for a lot of people, including people that I know personally, they'll say things like, see, they can't figure out how many people are on planet Earth. So that must mean there's only like a couple 100,000. And someone said that to me one time. They were like, Ren, I don't think there's 8 billion people. And I said, well, I don't think there's exactly 8 billion people either. And they said, no, I don't think there's like close to 8 billion. I said, well, what do you mean? They said, oh, I think there's maybe like 100,000. I said, where do you get that number from? Oh, somebody on YouTube was saying that there's no way they could possibly estimate how many people are on Earth exactly. So they're just lying to us. And I thought, well, yeah, nobody can estimate it exactly. I don't think that's necessarily possible to like get it exactly. But just because they can't get it exactly, whether we're told there's 10 billion or 5 billion, that doesn't mean there's 100,000. And if you think there's 100, literally, that was that's one of these alternative, probably CIA sponsored talking points. If you believe there's 100,000 people on planet Earth, get on a plane and go to any major city in the world. Go to New York. There's more than 100,000 people in New York. Uh, like the Super Bowl has like 60, 70,000 people, right? Is it like 60, 70,000 attending? 100,000 people that come to Tokyo. Just go online and look at a picture of Tokyo. I'm sure you probably think Tokyo doesn't actually exist. It's like we live in some kind of state of like theoretical physics state of like a theoretical physics state of mind. In fact, that could actually be a show, like theoretical physics state of mind. Like if you're not looking at it, it doesn't exist. It doesn't appear, right? So I think that's how a lot of people think. Like, well, I've never been to Tokyo, so it doesn't exist until I see it. Like, oh, okay, but I live here. Yeah, but we don't know if you're real. I think that says CIA all over it or something to that effect. Hey, Gary's here. Gary's I don't know how long of a fan of the show, but I've met Gary and spent time with Gary at Roswell, and I'd like to see you at Contact in the Desert, Gary, but they just don't have a pass for me this year. It's just the damnedest thing. They told me that they don't have a pass, and I said, okay, well, for media, and I said, okay, I'll just come, just a regular person then. Oh, well, we don't have any of those passes either. Just like we can't just give passes out. And I said, well, I've come every year. I've always promoted it. I've been coming since the beginning. Um, you can't they gave me a pass last year and the year right before that and so on. Like, you can't give me a pass suddenly. No, but if you were media, maybe we could do one. I was like, you just told me you don't have media passes. And then she stopped talking to me. So I won't see you there this year, Gary, because there's people there that I guess don't want me. Well, actually, I know who doesn't want me there. But what is science? Gary says, I was in college in 1979 and we read a book, Food First. It estimated that it takes 9 pounds of corn to make 1 pound of beef. Inefficient, wasteful use. Yeah, I think that's the same thing with the amount of water, the amount of grain, the amount of this or that that's used to feed cattle to produce a one cheeseburger. It's like it's an incredible waste. Okay, let's see. Oh, here, bad whiskey. I don't think I put bad whiskey on the. I think they have good whiskey over here in Japan. They say I don't drink, but they've been told that. I believe the narratives are designed to move us in their desired direction, whatever that might be. Well, yeah, there's all kinds of narratives. There's always a narrative to move us in one direction or another. There's narratives that are alternative narratives, if you will, that are meant to move us in one direction or another. Let's see if there's any other comments in the chat. Oh, well, actually, we should go back to this China thing really fast because yeah, they probably underestimate the number of people or overestimate the number of people in other areas. Um, you think about how vast China or Russia is, like the land mass and the rural areas, they probably are underestimated. But hey, while they're out there in those rural areas doing the population count, maybe they could check on the temperature readings where they're normally several degrees below what they are at the airports inside of the engine where they put the thermometer on the tarmac where there's like no trees or grass for a mile radius. And then they say that's the average temperature, like they do in one of the hottest cities in the country, Phoenix, where they literally go to Sky Harbor and literally take readings from a literal thermometer that's literally on a tarmac behind a freaking jumbo jet and then say, it's the hottest ever. See, that just got me thinking. Now, there's another story that we should probably pull up about this if we're going to talk about weather and temperature. And I'm trying to think of what that story was. Let me show you on the screen how I find things. Let's pull that back up so you can see it. Okay, follow with me here. We're going to try to find this article. It was Associated Press, and we could just type in AP. Associated Press, Maine University data, NOAA, standard, just keywords here, record temperature. Okay, we'll pull that up and see what comes up. Anything, might have to pull NOAA out or go to news. Okay, nothing. Search that different, nothing. Oh, here it is. one of these articles. Associated Press. Okay, remember they told us that it was the hottest. Earth hit an unofficial record high temperature this week, and it stayed there. Well, this is a great article because in the article it has statements from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Some of you might have actually heard me reference this before. It says the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration distanced itself from the designation, this designation, this bullshit. And by the way, they're the ones that use actual data. You need to see the sarcasm in my face. They use actual data, not fucking simulations. Okay, so the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration distanced itself from the designation compiled by the University of Maine's Climate Reanalyzer, which uses satellite data and computer simulations to measure the world's condition. And they explain, and then I'm trying to find the exact, this is the really good part here. NOAA, whose figures are considered the gold standard in climate data, said in a statement that it cannot validate the unofficial numbers. Yeah, because it's a GD computer simulation. It noted that the reanalyzer, let me zoom in really close so you can see how crazy this is. It noted that the reanalyzer uses model output data, which it called not suitable as substitutes for actual temperatures and climate records. Do you see what it says on the screen? It says that they don't use actual data. Well, they might use some satellite images, but they use substitutes for actual records. I'm pretty sure that's like fraud when you sell it as proof, the truth, evidence. The model output data is not suitable as substitute for actual temperature and climate records. This article, every time I read it, it just blows me away. I mean, how much more official does it need to get? The people that actually, and this is another one of those things. Well, NOAA's the government. You can't trust them. Well, actually, if you listen to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, they've been pretty consistent and level-headed. This is the same NOAA. I could probably pull this up on X, where you had Don Lemon interviewing this guy from NOAA about climate change and hurricanes, and the guy from NOAA is like, you can't say it's linked to climate change. And Don Lemon's reading the script. He's like, well, yeah, you said you wanted to come here tonight to talk about how it is. He's like, no, you can't. He said, you can't say a specific storm is linked to climate change. Maybe it is, but you can't say that, Don. This is a guy from NOAA. NOAA is the one that uses actual data, not computer simulations based on substitutes for real data. The whole thing is a fraud. And people are so wrapped up in this, if you try to explain it to them, they're not going to understand it. They're not going to want to understand it. It's too much to change their whole perspective on the world. Okay, so then that reminds me of this presentation, or this isn't a show tonight for the record. This is just a presentation on how I make an episode of the show. What I'm showing you is a lot more than what I would normally do because I'm trying to show you where my brain goes and remembering all of these things. We could type in Pfizer. We're going to jump to Pfizer now. Yeah, we're going to jump to Pfizer. Statement gain of function research. And mine are highlighted because I had pulled it up before. Here's Pfizer saying something similar to what the AP said. And so you don't have to go through and read the whole thing. Let me just pull it up for you. That they also use computer simulations for their gain of function research. Isn't that convenient? So it's a computer simulation. It's not real. So when James O'Keefe says, look, they're doing gain of function research and they talk about it in Congress, I'm sure they're doing a lot of crazy stuff. But when Pfizer does it, they're using computer simulations, and even where it says mutations, they're talking about it on a computer. A computer. It's a computer virus. It's not real. But if you try to show this to people, they don't want to even try to understand, because the implications of what this means is that, yes, climate change, all that stuff that you've been told is false. And also the stuff about gain of function research, which means that they weren't doing gain of function research in a lab because, well, it was a lab. It just wasn't a biolab, it was a computer laboratory, which means the White House is also selling you a false narrative because the White House wants to push vaccines, which then takes us to the next story. If we wanted to just continue this and go on forever, Wall Street Journal, RFK Jr. putting $500 million on universal vaccines. Yeah, this is the article I talked about on the recent show called One Nation Under God Overprescribed. And I know it's hard to imagine that the savior of the universe in America would do something like this, but the Trump administration is investing $500 million in a vaccine project championed by two scientists who were tapped to serve senior roles in the NIH. Yep, there it is. The project involves producing vaccines from chemically inactivated whole viruses. And it goes on to say, the shift appears to be a makeover of the Biden administration's Project Next Gen, $5 billion effort to fund new COVID vaccines because the new COVID vaccines are a waste. They're a waste. They said it was wasteful. So they're going to instead create a different kind of vaccine, and it's going to be a universal flu vaccine as well as a universal coronavirus vaccine. Would you look at that? It is magical. The project also includes research on a second universal flu vaccine, a universal coronavirus vaccine. Oh, and they're doing it with the NIH. Oh, and then look at this really nice part here that you might remember from during the pandemic years, that these ideas that the NIH and that Trump and all these people are funding now, same thing Biden did, was really the brainchild of Anthony Fauci. So they're just going to continue to do that. Jim in the chat, are you working in a computer lab on gain of function research? That's the question. I hear that they pay a lot for those computer simulations, which if you want to talk about computer simulations, the same people at the Imperial College that were responsible for the fake COVID numbers, 2 million people are going to die. Oh my God. 5 million are going to die, are the same people that literally the same people that are behind the fake climate change projections and predictions. And I could show you that too. So anyway, you pull all of this up and you put it all together, and it's like, well, what do we have here? What are the themes? Okay, well, the Arctic sea ice, the population numbers, the food waste, you know, vaccines, geoengineering, like all these things go together because we're trying to change the atmosphere. We're trying to change the plants. We're trying to change the animals. We're trying to change the humans. You mix all this stuff together and you kind of have this theme of, well, what I wrote in my book, The Technological Elixir, 10 years ago. Not that it was the first time someone wrote something like that, but I wrote 10 years ago. Well, I talked about further back than that, but I wrote 10 years ago. I've been talking about it forever on the show, that there is a plan to replace organic nature with synthetic nature. I think it's obvious. I think this Colossal Biosciences is part of that. And so you put all this together and you got a show there. What is the show name? I don't know what the show name is. I'd have to think of something, but that's the next phase of preparing an episode of The Secret Teachings. Now I try to come up with like a show name. Sometimes I have a name that is already in mind, and I'll make a show based on that, or an image sometimes. I'm trying to think of what would a good show name be. Hey, anybody in the chat got a good show name? It's got to be clever. It's got to be a play on words. Um, Talking about labs, computer labs, simulations. I just sit and think, and I'll do this with. I might be making breakfast. I might be making dinner, and I'll just take a note, come up with an idea. Oh well, if we're replacing organic life, maybe the Great Replacement that plays on the World Economic Forum. So instead of the Great Reset, rather, Great Replacement is the UN. Great Replacement. So, okay, I write these. So the Great Replacement, we could play with that term. Great Replacement. And then there's the Great Reset. Okay. We could play with those terms. The Great Silicone Reset. Maybe that. The Great Human Replacement. It's not just one race or group of people, it's all people. The great human replacement, the great silicone reset. I don't know. Those are two ideas playing on a larger theme. Mm, I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? Anybody have a show name? The Great Dimmed Lab. I don't know what that's a reference to. What's that a reference to? The Great Dimmed Lab. We could play with lab too. You know, the lab. I don't know. It's not something just comes to me normally. I don't usually think this hard about it. um, let's see. Oh, okay. That dimmed lab was for someone else in the chat. Okay. For those of you just joining us, this is how I make an episode of The Secret Teaching. So we have like a general overview. Um, we have a general theme and idea. The great, I kind of like the Great Silicon Reset or the Great Silicone Reset. I think I like that. And sometimes I'll come up with an idea and then I'll change it later. I'll make another promo and replace the other one. It's kind of whatever happens. I don't know. I don't let AI tell me what to do. I don't let Drudge Report tell me what to do. I don't let Infowars tell me what to do. I don't let the hacks on social media that are influencers tell me what to do or what to believe. I try to come up with my own ideas by actually reading these stories. Um, I'm trying to think of a name so that we can make a promo. I can show you how I make a promo picture. Hmm. Okay. I think I want to go with the great silicone reset, obviously referencing computers, but then is it really computers that we're resetting? It's more like genetics. Maybe the great genetic reset. Mm, maybe the great genetic reset, great silicone reset. Once we get this, we can make the promo picture. Great genetic reset, the great silicone reset. Okay. Gary's coming up with some ideas. Now it's human, now it's not. Hmm. Okay, I kind of like that idea, playing around with that. Abracadabra is a little bit too much for a show title, but now you see. Okay, maybe Gary's got the idea. Now you see humans. Now you don't. Now you see me. Oh, now you see. Now you see me. Now you see. Maybe now you see. Or okay, how about this? How about maybe this? Put in the chat. I don't think this is going to post to all the chats. Now you see man. Now you don't. Because it's me, M, that kind of keeps it together. What do you think about that one? Gary had a pretty good idea there. Now you see human. Now it's human. Now it's not. Play with it a little bit more. And I'm going to show you how I make a promo picture. Now you see man. Now you don't. Obviously, man means mankind. Pretty sad that we didn't teach girls that. It doesn't mean women. It should be womankind. Well, agree with it or not, that's the etymology of the word, but okay. I don't know how far the chat is behind what I'm saying. I don't because there's like YouTube, Facebook, X. I'm not sure where the chat is. Um, I kind of like that idea. I think Gary gave me a good idea there. I think we'll go with either the Great Silicon or the Great Genetic Reset, or now you see humans, now you don't. Now you see man, or now you see man, now you don't. Hmm. I think that's a workable. Let me check X to see if anybody's I don't think the X chat comes through my StreamYard. So let me see if I can find on X if there's anybody commenting, and then we will go back to making a promo picture, writing a little show description, and then we will be done preparing the show. Again, took a lot longer than most. I don't spend an hour always preparing. I used to spend an hour preparing shows, but that's just way too much. So I don't do that anymore. especially because there's like, virtually no financial benefit and I have to pay bills and I would like to put my time into other things that are making me able to sustain me. Hey, early girl finally got here early, I guess, well, kind of early. Have you been here the whole time? Last time she showed up right at the end. Hopefully you've been here the whole time or you got half the show. Now you see women, now you don't. Okay, so I think we're gonna go. I like that. Now you see man, now you don't. That's a very TST title. Okay, we're gonna give Gary credit to that. I'm glad you've been here early girl. Thank you for joining. All right, Flux, you're the one that you really want to see the promo picture, or are you talking to somebody else? I never know who's in the chat talking to who, or if they're talking to me. All hell, Gary. Yes. Okay, so let's do this. I'll show you my screen again. Okay, just to get ideas, we'll type in like "now you see me, now you don't," which I think that's a movie, so I'm probably gonna get the movie. Yeah, it's a movie coming out with a new movie. Actually, I'm only gonna get the kind of posters and movie shots for that. How about type in? This is just to get ideas. I'll type in like stage magic just to get ideas and look at things. Hmm, something that might be usable. And sometimes I pull up 2, 3, 4 things, delete them, and go to something else. I don't know. We could do a lot of things with magic or illusion. There's a stage. You could play with a stage. Probably not, but now just open it up just to have it. Um, hmm. Oh, PT really wanted to see the pic. Okay, well, I'm going to show you how I make a promo picture. I like to take time looking at stuff so I can make sure that it's going to come out good. I usually like to have a dark picture so I can kind of blur the edges and make it look kind of grainy. Okay, so stage magic. Now you see man, now you don't. Okay, how about synthetic biology? Let's see if what comes up for that. Nothing too interesting. Hmm. So I'll just play around with things. Honestly, usually the promo picture is like one of the more difficult things to do because I don't want to ever use the same picture over again. I don't want to use AI, although I'm sure I've stumbled upon AI images before and used them unintentionally. Um, but I try to find something that's available on the internet, free, and then I'll edit like the coloring of it or something. I'll distort it, change it, and then add my text to it and export it, and there we go. And I try to make it something that looks interesting, not just a picture with a text over it, because that's just kind of cheap. Hmm. Like the Earth and the DNA there. Mhm. Oh, here's like MIT. MIT always has some good like background images. Oh, I kind of like that. I don't know if I could get a. It's not a very big picture. Hmm. Could play with that. I don't think these magic ones are going to work. Let's see. There's a good question. How does the copyright work with promo pics if it's like from a movie or TV show? If you slightly alter it, does it become fair use with no problem? I don't use things like that. Maybe I've used a movie picture or something in the past. Usually I distort it to the point where it's not the same thing anyway, and then I put my own text over it and alt and adjust it so I, make it my own thing. That's to answer your question. In terms of specifics, like I don't use anything specific enough that could be in violation of copyright anyway. There is Yeah, you're right, William. There is man and woe man. So mankind includes both woman and man and man. Yes, you're right, but you can't explain that to the people that think God is a transgender person. Hmm. Let's see what else we have here. What's that? Yeah, it's like biology. Eh, okay, maybe we could play with this. Probably AI generated, which I don't like. But we could play with it and distort it as long as I'm not generating it. But we could definitely play around and distort that image. See what else we have. Um, human. See, human into machine. That's always a classic there. All right. Again, for those of you just joining us, I'm showing you how I make a show. We went through the preliminary stages, and then we went through the specifics of the show idea and whatnot. And now we're looking for a promo picture to play with and to edit and manipulate. A lot of these are just AI generated. Hmm. I don't really want to use that one, but sometimes it's hard to find anything else. So we'll have to play with it and twist it and distort it a little bit. Hmm. If I spelled it right, maybe something else would come up. Human into machine. Mm. Also, when you're making a picture, you kind of want to make it, or when I'm making a picture, I sort of want to make it, I don't know, like darker. I don't want it to be like exciting and happy. So I kind of try to make it darker or make it a little spooky or a little scary or something. What else do we have? Okay, maybe try to use one of these. I'm going to save this, although I really don't want to use this image. If I struggle to find something, I'll pull a few that I'm questionable on, and then I will maybe go back and replace them later with something else. Uh, Once I get the image, though, then we can make the picture and do the description really fast, and we're pretty much done. Hmm. Okay, so let's just open up and play around with the image. This is a website I use. This is a personal industry secret. It's free websites. I don't pay for expensive programs. It will open up. Oops, we got to make this black. And then we'll just play with the image. Okay, we'll load an image. See which image here we're going to use. That one or that one. I'm looking at the preview on my computer. And for those of you who are thinking, this is boring, okay, well, this particular stream isn't for you. I'm just showing people how I prepare a show. And then this show that I'm preparing will be Thursday's show this week, Friday my time. Friday my time? Yeah, Friday my time, Thursday your time, US. Thursday morning, you'll be able to get this show that we're doing now, the the show itself, like what we're preparing to do the show for. Um, hmm, I don't know. This is a tricky one. I kind of like this, and we could play with this and put other images over it. Kind of build a layer or something here. We could change the color of it, change the filter on it. See, that is a little bit more up my alley. Something like that. It's very simple. A little too black, lighter. Huh. Okay. Got the idea. Mhm. This is what I do. It's no wonder people that see me doing this, they're like, "That's not work. That's not work." It is work. It's a lot of work. I have to be original every day. It's a lot of work. Mm, that's pretty bright. We could stretch it. You also want your show promo picture to kind of match with the title, and this doesn't necessarily match with the title. Now you see man, now you don't. Hmm. So we'll keep doing this. We'll play around with some of the filters and find something that kind of looks good. I might put another image over top of it too. Mm, I spelled that very wrong. I hit the wrong button. Vitruvian Man. I could do the Vitruvian Man PNG, which will give us a no background file, or no background image rather, not file. Okay. Okay, okay. And we'll pull that down, save that, and then I will incorporate that into this maybe. We'll see what it looks like. You guys can see this uh, website here with the image creator, right? I think it's popping up. Okay, so that's coming through black. So I might have to open up another one and change the color of it. Or I don't know. That's could come through okay. Probably needs to be white. Oh no, no, that's okay. Something like that. Maybe a see if I turn him upside down. Hmm, maybe one there. Again, we're just playing. I have no idea what's going to happen. No idea how it's going to turn out. Okay, we'll do that. Um, and then we'll do another one upside down just to play around with it and see what happens. Yes, okay. I'm glad that you guys can see it. All right. I think people are more interested in how I make the show than they are in me actually doing the show. This is a lot of people listening just on YouTube for a channel that I just created and got back up and running, or got back rather, not created, but I did start adding stuff to it for the first time, so I guess it's like creating it. Okay. Try to do an upside down one. I don't know. I'm just playing. See what happens here. Okay. I guess I'm halfway happy with that if we align that correct. Is that the same size? It's about the same size. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, we'll put him over here. So we have like a one side up and one side down. Okay, and then we'll kind of play with the filter one more time and maybe put a mask. Oops, stay on page. Maybe put a mask on it or something. See, we'll go through these filters. And we will find something that looks halfway decent, and then we'll see what the text looks like, and then we will. Oh, what was that one? Oh, that's kind of cool. Hmm, kind of cool. I could put that in the center. For the record, most of the time, whatever I make is just a total mistake. It's just a total accident. Whatever happens, happens, type of a thing. Hmm. Not extreme. This. I'm glad that I'm showing you this. That this is a really hard one tonight in terms of a promo picture. Usually, they don't take this long to make. I think I need to hold on a second. I need to disconnect my hard drive too. It's slowing the computer down. I need to get a much faster computer if I'm going to do any kind of live streams. But computers are very expensive. Okay, there we go. Disconnect it. Hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, let's see if we're gonna have to just make a decision here because it's not a big deal, and that's part of the preparation for the show. I want to do it as quickly as possible because it's not like I'm being paid a certain amount to do it. It's just kind of random. Like for example, I do a full show on YouTube, and a fraction of the people show up to shows like that are actually prepared as opposed to how I prepare a show. So like sometimes I put up random episodes and people love them, and then I put up shows I really put my heart into, and people are like, "Oh, it was a horrible show." So I don't even know anymore. um, which program am I using? I am using a free website because I don't want to pay for an expensive program. So I'm using a free website. Okay, I'm going to go with this filter. Maybe one more. Twist it and turn it. Uh, Maybe that. I would say it's not as easy as it looks, but it is definitely easier than it looks. I'm making it look very difficult right now. These technology type shows or changing human shows or synthetic biology shows or whatever, they're really difficult to make promo pictures for. Okay, I'm gonna go with that, and then we're gonna put maybe a mask on it. I like these paper masks. They kind of give like a layer to it. You might not even be able to see that mask. And we can do a film. I like the film ones. You definitely have seen me use these film ones before, like um, a line down them. Actually, it's not really. You can't really see it that well in this color. Okay, we're gonna go with that, and then we're gonna save it, and then I'm gonna drag that to my desktop. Alrighty, and then we're gonna open up a new canvas. We're gonna change the color, and we're gonna just draw that image in. I operate like the old Japanese idea of kaizen. I'm always trying to do better, so I think that this is not my best work. I think it could always be better. But I pull this in. I could zoom in a little bit for you. Uh, put this here. Okay, that's pretty good for top and bottom. And then we will add some text. Okay, now you see men. Now you see man. We have different colors we could do. We could do white. We can do red. Play with. We can do pink, purple. We can do any color we want. I usually just try to make things black, white. I prefer that, depending on the show. Okay, and then we'll put that there, and then I shrink it down so I can pick one of these. I always like disintegrate. Now you see man. Maybe that one. That actually isn't half bad. Okay, well maybe we'll come back to that. There are, I think there's probably a couple hundred of these, if not a thousand or more. I try to use different ones, but sometimes the same ones are just really good. And you've probably seen a lot of these fonts used in promo pictures for the show. Okay, again, just plain. I don't know what we're going to use here. Let's just click on something here. I'm just going to close my eyes. All right, what did I pick? Now you see, man. Huh. It's not like awful. It's a different one. I don't think I've ever used that font before. What's that called? It's called Rockstar. Okay, it's called Rockstar. So let's see. That's not half. It's not half bad. I'm going to use Rockstar. Okay, it's random. Now you don't. And we will do. I didn't save it, so let me search for it. Okay, now you see, man. Now you don't. We'll line this up so it's the same width, roughly. Maybe a little bit smaller for the bottom. Put it here. A little bit smaller for the bottom. Okay, and then we will save that. And we're going to put the show title in. Or not the show title, the show website, excuse me. Rockstar again. Sometimes I use a different font though for the website, so it's clearly not the show title. And then I will stick it here somewhere. You can see it. Yeah, I don't know if I like that one. Maybe that. Yeah, that one. That one's good. Okay. And then sometimes I would go back if it's a thick text, I'll go back and maybe do another filter because it'll change it, or I'll put like That one actually kind of smoothed it over. Put like a mask on it. It'll kind of make the see, you can change. Okay. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, do a little bit. Okay. Okay, now it's magical, so maybe we'll add one more thing. Let's see if we can find like a magic wand. Maybe a magic wand. Yeah, magic wand and hat. Okay. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Magical hat. That looks like it has a background, but we're going to open it up. I can remove the background. Okay, so we're going to save that desktop. And then we'll try this. We will try adding the image. We can strip the background in this program, or I have another website saved to do that. This background stripper doesn't work that well, but we'll see if it. Uh, I suppose maybe that's okay. And then we will shrink this down. You can't really see it that well. Okay, so we're going to do this instead. We are going to go to the background website, another random website. I found all these just by chance. I would rather waste my energy searching for something free rather than that's openly free rather than paying a bunch of money for a program. I am definitely a Tengu at heart. Wink, wink. I will pick the pennies up off the ground. Okay, so let's see if we can do that, and let's see if the magic hat comes out looking half decent. I mean, it's black on a black background, so that's going to kind of be hard to make it come up, make it show up. There's white. Okay, we'll flip it maybe. There we go. All right. We could play with the color, make it red. Red. Kind of draws your eyes to it a little bit. I don't know. We're almost done here. Let's see if we try. I don't know. Try yellow. Who knows? Now you see me. Yellow's kind of magical. A little magic in the yellow, right? There's a little magic in it. It's like something's happening in the hat. Something's happening in the hat. Pull a genetically modified rabbit out of the hat. Yes, the Tengu has been spotted. You should see that new video of Rabbi Shmuley on X. Actually, if you want to see here, I'll show you what I posted on X. Then I get sidetracked. That's all. That also happens. I get sidetracked. Anybody watch Fallout? That's one of the rules of the wasteland. Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time. That is totally true. Would you look at that? Doesn't he look exactly like a Tengu? That right there, by the way, is one of the primary reasons that Aftermath Media removed me from their platform. They didn't like the fact that I knew my Japanese mythology, I guess. I mean, don't look at that and tell me, okay, that's not the point of the show here, but don't look at that and tell me that the Japanese didn't know something there. Maybe turquoise. Turquoise. Okay, turquoise or like a turquoise green or something magical. And it's kind of a greenish blue, and that kind of fits in with the background. So a little bit more. Yeah, that works out a lot better. Okay, I like that a lot more. There's the hat. If I had like an I in this name, I would use the magic wand as the I probably. There you have it. Now you say, man, now you don't. It's magic. I'm going to make this pencil disappear. It's gone. And then we're going to save it. And okay, the next step is, okay, I try to work clean. So I'm going to delete all the extra stuff that I had. Get rid of the hat and all that on my computer desktop. Okay, and then we're going to open up Image Resizer. And we're going to stick this image in here. You can still see this. This is a free website too. It's taking a moment to load. And then after a lot of trial and error, because I have no computer background at all, I found that I needed exactly 1400 as the number that fits in here. And then I export it. And then on my desktop, I have to name. So this will be for Thursday's show. So I'll name that file Thursday. It's a knockoff of Wednesday. Thursday Adams. Okay, and then it has the file, and I'll pull the file here. I wonder if I think I can show you my desktop, can't I? Close window. Let's see if I can show you my desktop. Okay. Okay, so let's see if we can pull up desktop, share screen. Maybe I can't pull up. I can share my entire screen. I don't know how many mirrors into the future that's going to create if I share the entire screen. I guess we'll try. Okay, share screen. And then, yeah, so maybe we'll try to put the video part off the screen here. Okay, so you guys can see. So here's the picture we made. I guess, yeah, you can see. Okay. There's the picture we made. And then this is the smaller version of the picture, which will go into like Spreaker and Transistor, which is the free the advertisement free archive. I name these resize for, which is Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I have a file on my computer. So I've got like, this week of shows. These are all the promos that I had made. And then I've got different shows that I've done interviews on that I'm waiting to put together and put onto Spreaker. Live stream audio. I just keep this file here. If I download new music or if I have things like I made these 2 montages here for Ground Zero. They called me and asked me to make montages for them. This is this week of shows, as you might have seen. This is Secret. This is tomorrow's show. Won't spoil it for you, but this guy is not who he says he is. And then we're going to throw, because that's this week, we're going to throw these in here. So what I'll do is I have the main promo picture, and then I have the one for the streams, and then I put the audio file here, and I put my little Word file here. These are some of the files that we had pulled up, or the articles we pulled up earlier. So there it is. Now you see, man, now you don't. It's magic. All righty. So we will cancel, get out of that. And then I will stop sharing my screen because I want to show you the next step. Stop screen. Okay, now we're going to show you the next step. And the next step is putting it on the website. And I need to make sure I don't have the login information. So let's see if I can. Okay. Get into that. All right, so we're going to go to the website. Okay, we're on the home page of the website. I did put some new shows up too here. The Deep Underground Military Base. That was called Dumb and Dumber. Chicago World Fair Conspiracy. That was a good one. I'm green. If I were methylene blue, I would die. I love that show title. Okay, so here's every one of these is 1 week of shows, as I'm sure you've seen if you've been on the website. This website isn't to drive people to, it's just like a reference source for the show. Okay, so there's Monday's show, Tuesday's show, Wednesday's show, and then I'm going to edit. I'm going to add the show right here. We got to pull up the file. Okay, add media. Let that load. Okay, once it loads, we'll insert it. And then we'll almost be done. We have to make a little show description first. I hope that you're enjoying this. People ask me to do this for years. I just woke up this morning and thought, it's time to do it. Okay, it's loaded. We're going to insert it. Put Thursday. I'm sure there's probably a much simpler way of doing this, but I'm not a tech person, and half of me doesn't. I just don't. Half of me doesn't even care. Maybe I should care. Okay, and then we've got there it is. So it's on the show now, at the show website. Oh, and then I also have to do every day. I have to put in whatever the new one is. So today is Tuesday. Well, actually, today is Tuesday, so it's still the one nation under God, overprescribed. We will save that, and we have it on the website. Again, this normally does not take me this long to do this anymore. It used to take about this long, 4 hours a show, two to prepare. Well, actually, 5, 6 hours a show, two to prepare, two for the show, and then post stuff. But I don't have to do any of that anymore because it's just like a second nature to me. Okay, so that's on the website. We're done with that, and we will close out of that window. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull up, remove that, stop screen, and we're going to pull back up let's see, here we go. Pull up the little, there we go. Pull up the little Word file that I had. You are welcome, Flux. You are very, very welcome. Way too complicated for me. Well, if you think that was complicated, you should see what most people do. I think that's probably the most, you've just seen the most antiquated preparation for a radio show in the business. That is the most antiquated way that it's done. The cheapest way it's done too. I know that for sure because those programs are effing expensive. $5,000-6,000. Get the hell out of here. Okay, so we've got kind of that's that actually, or that article there is about the Pope being Jewish. That's a whole nother show. So stick that down here for now. Go back to the top. Okay, now you say, man, now you don't. All right, let's see how we can start this off. We had the article about the ice growth. So there's the ice growth. And we'll just do this. You're welcome for sharing, but we're not done yet. Not done yet, early girl. Um, you know, for a second, I thought it said easy girl. I was like, is that the same person or is that they changed? Not easy girl, early girl. You're welcome, but we're not done yet. We still got more stuff to do. Okay, so now we're gonna come up with like a show description, and these should be short because most people today, they've got like a 5-second attention span for a TikTok video or an Instagram post. Everybody's on the gram. Like I don't give a fuck about any of that social media stuff. I just don't care. But I'm trying to put my foot into it because that's where people are. So that's my personal frustration. I just hate all this stuff. Social media stuff. Okay, but people have short attention spans. So when I put together like a 3-paragraph description of the show that I think is really good, people don't read it. So you got to keep it semi short. And I don't have monologues like Clyde on Ground Zero. He has a monologue and they post it to the website. I don't have those. So I just go off of a little show description. A lot of times I write the show description after I do the show, but tonight we're preparing a show. Okay, so let's do this. We have the ice sheet story. I'm going to pull that story up on the internet again so we have a reference point. We'll do this. Another recent scientific report documents how, we want to make sure we get it right, Antarctica ice. Data collected, insights, Okay, okay, here we go. So we're going to have a quote from the article. So we want to get it. We want to be precise. Want to get it exactly what it's reported to be. Another recent scientific report documents how the Antarctic ice sheet, which we have been, I would just say, propagandized to zealously, not jealously, zealously, zealous. How do you say zealously? Oh, oops. Zealously believe is one of the major players in rising sea levels. What how they has gained, not lost ice in the previous decade or so. Okay. The study found that, and we have a quote of it, and we have the link to it. So then we're going to link this up here. A recent science report. Okay, we'll add that to the link. I'm crazy. I talk to myself like this when nobody's listening. Another recent scientific report documents how the Antarctic ice sheet, which we have been propagandized to zealously believe is one of the major players in rising sea levels, has gained, not lost. So it has actually gained, not lost ice in the previous decade or so. The study found that between 2002 and 2010, the AIS lost, the AIS lost mass at a rate of about 73.79 gigatons a year, a figure that doubled to 142.6 gigatons per year during the 2011-2020 period. Okay. All right, so we'll get rid of that. So that's the main body of the article. And I'm trying to see what they say the reason is. Oh, actually, this is a good line from the article. This shift is part of a broader pattern that challenges the long-standing narrative. They actually use the word narrative. That's what it is, the narrative of consistent mass loss in the region. So we'll do this. These findings obviously challenge the narrative of consistent mass loss in the region. We could say, what does this mean? Okay, what does this mean? Sometimes I ask the question. Okay, so I'm going to read it again, look at it again. We'll do this. Of many stories that, in fact, not just challenges the repeated narratives. Oh my God, I can't spell it all or type at all. But essentially destroys it. Okay, and then what other articles do we have? Ice melting. Ice melting. With more ice comes more reflection of sunlight. Something, here we go, universities. My God, why am I so bad at typing this morning? Universities, billionaires, and even governments have finally admitted to doing or wanting to do themselves. With more ice comes more reflection of sunlight, something universities, billionaires, and even governments have finally admitted to doing or wanting to do themselves. And then we can find some of the articles. There's one about billionaires, geoengineering billionaire George Soros article. I don't remember this article. Did I pull that article up? Oh yeah, why Bill? Okay, so they must have changed the title of it. Why billionaires are obsessed with altering the atmosphere. Okay, so we'll link that one up. We'll get this article, Harvard Sun Dimming Project. So there's a university link. Harvard, my God, Harvard Solar Geoengineering Research Program. So we'll link that up in universities, add link, and even governments. Got a bunch of those stories. Let's find one that we can link up. Oh, there's actually the Cloud Brightening Project too. I forgot to note that. That's an old one, really. Let's see what this diamond dust one was. This government, or who was behind this one? I don't think this was government. Well, it was Swiss government. I don't know. We got to find a good one. Who plans desperate? Maybe this one from the New Yorker. We'll link up the New Yorker. I think that might be a good one. I'm just going to make sure that we're talking about. Yeah, these are like governments. Okay, these are like governments. So we'll link that up. There's a whole bunch of these articles, as I showed you. I finally admitted to doing or wanting to do themselves. As the narrative around melting ice likewise dissolves or likewise melts away, we are at a turning point where the introduction of geoengineering programs will likely, this is again my angle, likely be given credit for reversing the melting of the various icy regions of Earth. Okay. So we've got a pretty good body here of a show. That's really funny, PT. Yes, it's like it's a show about making a show. It's a show about making a show. Yes, that's what it is. It's a show about nothing. It's a show about making a show. And then if I shared my screen again so you could see like endless versions of me, it would be a show about me making a show. And inside of that show, I'm making another show and making another show. And then we get into some Inception stuff. And now you don't know what reality you're in. Okay, so we're going to change the background and all this here so we can see it better. Make it a little larger so we can read it easier. And then this is what we've got so far. Okay, so I don't like it to be any more than double this size, any more than that, and it starts to get too big. As the official narrative around melting ice likewise melts away, we are at a turning point where the introduction of geoengineering programs will likely be given credit for reversing the melting of the various icy regions of Earth. Let's find another one of these stories. It's one in the UK. This is UCI. That's London. That's London. I'm trying to find. Oh, here we go. Here's the Bill Gates one. So that's the US. Okay. Introduction of geoengineering programs. We are at a turning point where the introduction of geoengineering programs, which have been around for decades, will likely be given credit for reversing the melting of various icy regions of the Earth. At the very least, they'll be given credit for reversing climate change. But it's not climate change that has been reversed. Instead, it's the narrative. Okay. So we got a pretty good thing going here. And we will see what else were we talking about. Okay, so we had the food waste. Oh, population numbers. We had population numbers. The same narrative is changing. Narrative is changing around overpopulation too, and not just because people are figuring out there is a difference between overcrowding and overpopulation of the planet. Let's be able to figure out. A recent report suggested. Did it suggest, or what did it say? I forget exactly what it said. Did it suggest? Oh, May. It just said May. A recent report may have, or a recent report suggests that we may have underestimated the number of humans on the planet. I get the birth rate decline article, at least one. Here we go. Birth rates plummeting around the world. Oh, actually, here's one story from yesterday. I didn't see this one earlier. South India's fertility rate decline is sharper than earlier estimates. All right. This is a slightly older article. We'll look this up. Okay, so that's the birth rates, and then we've got the population issue. We may have underestimated humans on the planet. Okay, this is especially important. What am I trying to say? Recent reports says that this is especially, I will say, coincidental. God damn, with the spelling. This is especially coincidental. Considering birth rates are falling globally and population is on the verge of a steep drop off. Okay. And we'll link that. Okay, so let's just kind of read and see what we have here, and then we'll put the final couple of sentences on it. Yes, this is a show about a show, about a show, about a show, about a show that's about a show. I'm glad you talked to yourself too. Is it Noka? Noka? Okay, let's see what we have here. Another recent scientific report documents how the Antarctic ice shelf, or ice sheet, which we have been propagandized to zealously believe is one of the major players in rising sea levels, has actually gained, not lost, ice in the previous decade or so. The study found that between 2002 and 2010, the AIS lost mass at a rate of about, read that already. That's a copy and paste, so I know there's nothing to edit there. These findings obviously challenge the narrative of consistent mass loss in the region. This is one of the many stories that, in fact, not just challenges the repeated narratives, but essentially destroys them. With more ice comes more reflection of sunlight, something universities, billionaires, and even governments have finally admitted to doing or wanting to do themselves. As the official narrative around melting ice likewise melts away, we are at a turning point where the introduction of geoengineering programs, which have been around for decades, will likely be given credit for reversing the melting of the various icy regions of Earth. At the very least, they'll be given credit for reversing climate change. But it's not CC that has been reversed. Instead, it's the narrative. The same narrative is changing around overpopulation too, and not just because people are figuring out there's a difference between overcrowding of cities and overpopulation of the planet. Throw a "the" in there. A recent report suggests that we may have underestimated the number of humans on the planet. This is especially coincidental considering both birth rates are falling globally and populations on the verge of a steep drop off. Okay, so this is a good body of a show right here. Let's see if what else we can throw into this mixture here. Pretty much at the end of the description. Okay. We have to have like a good ending point, and then we have to kind of end on this note. Oh, I'm glad I got the pronunciation right. I said two things though, so I don't know if I got it. Was it Noka or Knoka? I got one of them right, so whichever one it was, we'll go with that one. Thank you. Uh, Thank you for all of those of you who have tuned in. This is not a radio show tonight. This is just a how I do the show, how an episode of The Secret Teachings is made. We got to find something to end on. Okay, we still have the food thing. Food waste is a big one. I guess we could actually add that. Likewise, the narrative about starvation and lack of available food, while not possibly, while certainly true for some very specific, my God, specific regions of the planet, is rapidly changing as well. Likewise, the narrative about starvation and lack of available food, while certainly true for some very specific regions of the planet, is rapidly changing as well. For example, in the United States, well, I should say, for example, the United States wastes about 40, I think it was about 40%. Let me get the exact number again. Americans, how much? 40% of the entire food supply. U.S. wastes about 40% of its entire food supply due to expiration date confusion or wasting produce. And then we have that link, that nice little link here, because that's hard to believe. So we want to link it up. For example, the U.S. wastes about 40% of its entire food supply supply due to expiration date confusion or waste, or the simple wasting of produce. Part of that also comes from the fact that Americans don't know how to cook things. You try to give somebody a carrot. I don't know how to cook it. You don't have to cook it. You just fucking eat it. And then worldwide, every person, we're looking for the worldwide numbers. The world. Okay, the world. Outside the United States, I got a quote from the story. Outside the United States, the whole world wastes about, the number is 2.5 billion tons. Okay, the US wastes 120 billion pounds every year, 60 million tons. About 60 million tons. Outside the US, the whole world wastes about 2.5 billion tons of food a year. In other words, there is plenty of food. So much we waste near half of it every year. Hmm. Jim says he's going dumpster diving at Aldi's. You ever seen that documentary where the couple go minimalist? Or is it the minimalist one? Or they try to like eat just things that are dumped by supermarkets. It's like a crazy amount of stuff they dump that is expired by a day, and it's perfectly fine. If you want to see waste, work at a grocery store. I worked at a small grocery store, and the amount of stuff that this place wasted was insane. This grocery store was like the size of a maybe if you had like a four bedroom apartment or something. Like it was a small. That's a little bit too small. I don't know, like a one and a half 7-Elevens, like a basic 7-Eleven, one and a half 7-Elevens. It was like that size of actual food, and we wasted so much food at that place. It was unbelievable, unbelievable. And there's a guy working there who worked at the big supermarket in the area, the Wegmans in Rochester, and he said they would throw out pallet after pallet after pallet after pallet after pallet of stuff every night. Sometimes stuff was perfectly fine. So again, we don't have a melting ice issue. We don't have a population issue. In fact, that's probably how we can end this in this little show description here. With just these few examples, we don't have a melting ice issue. We don't have an overpopulation issue. We don't have a, say, resource. We don't have maybe we should say food scarcity issue, etc. We have a reporting issue, a narrative issue, a reporting issue, narrative issue. We have a reporting issue, a narrative issue, and a what else? Maybe we'll just do both and keep it to that reporting and narrative issue. These lies have spread so rapidly through society that they have become like a religious doctrine, showing people the evidence, evidence provided here is irrelevant to their predetermined conclusions, which justify, here we go. This is going to be the last little bit, which justify genetic engineering, geoengineering, synthetic biology, and the like. Which justify the like through the lens of saving the world. Okay, so this might be pretty good here. I'm going to read it kind of skim through this last part one more time. Let's see. For example, U.S. waste about 40% of the entire food supply due to expiration date, consuming waste products, let's see how many tons. Outside the U.S., the whole world wastes about 2.5 billion tons of food every year. In other words, there is plenty of food, so much we waste near half of it every year. With just these few examples, we can see that we don't have, you can see we don't have a melting ice issue, we don't have an overpopulation issue, we don't have a food scarcity issue. We have a reporting and narrative issue. These lies have spread so rapidly through society that they have become like a religious doctrine, showing people the evidence provided here is irrelevant to their predetermined conclusions, which justify genetic engineering, geoengineering, synthetic biology, and the like through the lens of saving the world. The world. Uh, okay. Through the lens of saving the world. Okay, we need one more line about now you see man, now you don't. Oh, here we go. I got it. I got it. In the process of trying to save the world, these solutions threaten to make humans extinct. In other words, it's not the fault, or let's see, it's the last sentence, I think. Threaten to make humans extinct. In other words, it's not the threat of something like climate change, which is evidently false and misleading, but instead the solution offered to fight it, something like climate change, but instead the solution offered to fight it, that threatens to extinct mankind. Threatens to extinct mankind. Okay, is that good? Let's see. In other words, it's not the threat of something like climate change, which is evidently false and misleading, but instead the solution offered to fight it that threatens to extinct mankind. Perhaps that was the goal all along for things like CO2, things like CO2, all along. Because to eliminate CO2 is to eliminate all current life on the planet. Now you see man. Now you don't. All right, boom, there it is. And obviously I'll explain something else to you. So when I write something like this, this last part, it's like people read this, perhaps it was the goal to eliminate CO2. Like, who's saying eliminate CO2? And you got, some people are new, so that you have to explain it to them over and over again. You got to explain it to them. Okay, well, there's a plan. Then you have to go into the background of all of that. And that takes time. And by the time you look at the time, you spent 3-4 hours going over something that a lot of times the show is really based on what the majority of listeners already kind of know. So if you come into the show without knowing that, you think this guy's crazy. Or then people that listen a lot will think, why is he repeating himself? Because most people coming and going don't know those things, or they've heard them in passing on other programs and they have an idea. And if you don't fit that particular, idea of how you explain it, the narrative, whatever the alternative media is saying, then people don't want to listen to that either. Here's a random question from the chat. Do you have Doritos and Mountain Dew in Japan? I know they have Doritos. I'd assume they have Mountain Dew, but I have not seen Mountain Dew. I've seen Doritos, but it's like a weird small bag. It's not like a big bag over in the US. Patrick, becoming more synthetic may be protection, I suppose, if you're going to be fighting against the AI silicone gods. All right, so we went through, again, this would normally take me like, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes, but we spent more than double that time because I'm trying to show you. We picked up the articles, we came up with like a general show idea, made the promo picture. We got some assistance from the chat for a show name, something kind of, play on words. and then we built it together. We put in the ice sheet story. We got the story about geoengineering, the news stories, which are all topical, and reversing climate change. We've got the stories in here about the population numbers, the birth rates. This is all new stuff as well. The amount of food we waste, and then the narratives, and then what it's really all about: eliminating CO2, limiting current life on the planet. Now you see man, now you don't. Okay. So that's how I prepare a show. And then I will save that and we will close that window. And then I will show you one more thing. One more thing. Okay. So this was the show. So we made the promo picture. That's the main promo pic. We put it on the website. We made this, which is for like Spreaker, Transistor. And then here's the file, show information. Well, actually, you can't see that because it's a. Can't see that because it's a preview. But this is the file that we just had. Has the links and all that, and then I will say, all right, we're done preparing the show. Finished preparing the show, and then I will do the show. Usually, I do the show, and then I go through and make the promo picture and all that. Nowadays, because I build it in my mind. But then I'll do the show, and then I'll put the file into that file there, and then we'll upload it to Spreaker, upload it to Transistor FM, and then it will be on the website for subscribers, and usually a little bit before it posts for everybody else. One of the perks of being a subscriber, and then it will be available on Spotify, Apple, etc., through the Spreaker application, which has all the advertisements. All right. So whether you're listening now or you're tuning into this 3 months from now, whenever you're tuned in, that's how we make an episode of The Secret Teachings. Maybe I'll show you sometime how I do more of an occult episode, which those shows, the only thing I really look up for those shows is like specific names and stories about maybe like a god or a goddess or a folklore or folk legend or something to that effect. Most of the time, like that's my favorite subject, so it's just kind of up here anyway. But that's how I prepare a show. You get the show idea, show description, show promo, and then you have to post it on social media. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, isn't it? And then when you see your Spreaker numbers drop down because you talked about something that some cult didn't like, then it's kind of like demoralizing. But thank you, like everybody who tuned into this. I'm so surprised so many people tuned into this. Thank you for listening and watching. I suppose it was as intriguing. Maybe I should just like prepare the show every day on YouTube and more people would watch that than watch the actual show. But what we prepared tonight, now you see, man, now you don't. That will, I can't really say air, but it'll be available Thursday, U.S. time, probably what 3, 4, 5, 4, 5 a.m. I think I posted at like 4 or 5 a.m. Mountain time, so it's a pretty good time Eastern, but it'll be available early Thursday morning. And as you can see, it's actually very light out here because it is, what time is it? It is 10:43 in the morning here. So usually this is around the time I record my show and I do all this stuff and then I put it up and then you listen to it. That's pretty much it. I do have a couple of other things to add. If you go to our website, just while we're here and have so many people watching, for those of you who have never done this before, if you're on our website and you're curious about my books, which I've had some people ask about the books recently, I have gone through, let's see, Food Philosophy is only $15. There's a digital copy that comes with the physical. It's one of the smaller books. The Technological Elixir, a lot of the stuff that we talked about here is in this book. I'm not saying it's the absolute authority, but this book is a large book. It was almost 800 pages, and I went through and I shrunk the text size down, so I got it down to 618 pages. And I think once you hit 700 with the publisher, they charge like an outrageous amount to print it. So once I got it down under 700, the price dropped substantially to print it. So now if you want a copy of the Technological Elixir, you click on the link and it only costs $20 now. Look at that. It was $40 before. I could probably sell it for 25, 30. It's an enormous book. But in terms of printing it and in terms of the size, you get it for 20 bucks now and you get a digital with that. Um, Same thing with these other books. I dropped the price because of the size. Let's see what we have also for the Liberty Shrugged. I dropped that $5. That's a huge history book. That's one of the books I'm most proud of, and you can get that now. That's $25, I think, for Liberty Shrugged. I highly recommend you get that book if you're going to buy one. And let's see what else we have here. I dropped the prices down. Garden of Hallucinations. It's kind of like a primer to Occult Arcana. And it is, how much did that one drop down to? It dropped down from 30 or 35 to 20 bucks too. All right. So I guess the point of me showing you this is not just to promote it, but also to say, like, I'm not trying to make a lot of money off of this. I'm trying to just, I have to pay for the printing and the work that goes into it. I think I make like $10 or $15 off of those books when they're actually sold. My main book, though, I would recommend Liberty Shrugged. My main book's Occult Arcana. That's the masterpiece, I think, and it is $50. It's a very large book, not just in terms of pages, but in terms of like the size of it. It's a big book too. It's like one of those old occult books, or like Agrippa's 3 books on occult philosophy, something to that effect. So there it is. There, a lot of stuff in these books, like on the show, it's all just really well documented. If you want to get a copy, you can. If you don't, no big deal. I don't make a lot of money off of it, but if you want something like that for your support, there's a way to support the show. Other things that I could share with you while I have you here. We keep getting new listeners tuning in. Let's see what else we could have. Oh, Fridays. I think Fridays, and some might be different, but instead of doing the every other weekend Saturday Q&A or live stream, maybe I'll do that like once a month, and then we'll do like every Friday I'll have the actual episode of the Secret Teachings on YouTube, because I keep hearing that YouTube is the place where people find new shows. So what we'll do is like I'll stream the live broadcast on YouTube, which I guess, my goodness, I guess I'd have to do that Saturday morning my time for it to be Friday night your time. So it'd kind of be like this. Like right now it's Wednesday morning, it's Tuesday night there. So maybe I do the show Saturday morning. Huh. If I do the show Saturday morning my time, that would be Friday evening your time. Maybe I'll do that. But that's what I'm working on. Maybe do like a Friday broadcast, interactive, and it's on YouTube, and then later, I'll put it on the Spreaker platform. But the bottom line is the money that the show makes is from Spreaker primarily, and it's from people subscribing to the show. For those of you who have not subscribed yet, it's very, I think, cheap for what you get. We have a year, a month, and a week. There's also lifetime subscriptions, and you get access to a lot of stuff here. Digital copies of the books, montages, depending on what tier you select, video presentations, the document archiving, which includes the archive of what I showed you on this hard drive earlier. I took 3 or 4 boxes of files before I moved and went to the library. I scanned all of them. That took forever, but they're all there on the website now for you to access as a subscriber. So anyway, I'm trying to do something that's cheap and that's unique. I don't want AI included in what I do. I'm trying to do all of this through like my brain, through my mind, through like the spirit, through whatever you want to call it, God, etc. I'm not doing it based on talking points. I'm not doing it based on what other people are saying, although I might reference other people. I'm trying to do something unique. I'm trying to preserve like good old fashioned late night radio. And I think that that's an important thing to preserve. It's an iconic thing to preserve. I'm just stating to you that that's kind of my goal in what I do. We'll look at the chat here really quick. Early Girl says, "Listen on Spreaker every evening." Thank you. It'd be interesting to see the behind the scenes of an occult show. That one would be really simple to show you because that definitely wouldn't take 2 hours. That would take probably like a half hour to put it all together. Maybe I'll do that next week or something. I did that Labubu. Is it Labubu show? I did that Labubu show last Friday. Did you guys see the or listen to the Labubu show? That that's an occult show right there, Labubu. Surprisingly, that didn't do very well in the archive. I thought it would do better. These racial shows did better than that. I was surprised by that. So I have no idea what people want or what the algorithm wants and doesn't like me. I know that. You're welcome, Noka, for sharing. You're welcome. You're welcome, Miguelito Cortez. Thank you. Best radio out there. Appreciate that. Flux liked the Labubu show. Flux always listens. Flux is always on our Spreaker commenting. Let me ask you guys this, and girls this, and um, them, they, he, her, she, they. Let me ask you all this question. I'm being sarcastic. Let me ask you all this question. Have you left us a review on Apple? If you have not, please do it. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Make sure it posts. But when you leave us a review on Apple in particular, it actually drives up the show in the searches. So that would really help us out. Remember, we've been around for 15 years. It's a really long time. 15 years of radio. It's hard to even wrap my head around that. But we were around before some people ever thought about picking up a microphone, and I just kind of fell into it. And there's a lot of great radio host podcasters and whatnot out in the digital world or out in the world. The thing is, there's very few people that I trust. Like I trust. I don't know if I should just name or not name people, but like I trust people like I like Clyde Lewis. I trust people. I don't think I should get into any other names, but yeah, there's some people I trust, some people I don't trust. And the reason I don't trust some people is because they just do the talking points, and I don't like talking points. I was actually accused of having weird talking points. I say, well, they're not talking points. They're like actual opinions. Maybe you guys are interested in seeing this, but I'll show you how long we've been on the air. Let me show you some old pictures of the show. This was That was Joe Roop and I and Clyde in Oregon. We went into the studio and did a show. I think I have some like here's a really old photo from 2017. 17? No, 19. Oh, 19. Oh my God. That was a studio in New York. I don't know if you guys are interested in seeing this. Well, I'm sorry you trust David Wilcock for the truth, PT. If you trust him for the truth, he's got a 6-hour live stream where he's taking donations. I don't even take donations on YouTube. Fuck it. What else do we have on here? There's me at Area 51. I'm trying to go back to some like old. Here's another old one. This was 2018. It's another studio. That was Tucson. Oh my God, this was in Portland. This was at Ron Patton's Paranoia Pad. I look like a loser. Here's Jim Mars. You actually knew Jim Mars? Yeah, you're lying. Sure, I edited that picture. I made that up. Totally fake. Anyway, I thought that there were more pictures on here. These other, there are other pictures. Maybe I deleted them. I think I deleted a lot of pictures, like ex-girlfriend or something like that. Maybe really old pictures. Huh? I guess I did. I went through and deleted a bunch of them. I tried to clean myself off the internet as best as I could because I just don't like I don't like having much of an internet presence. Oh, Jesus Christ, don't bring up that woman. Don't make me gag. Heather Wade, Jesus Christ, what a whack job that woman is. I don't. What happened to her? Did she go away? I don't know what happened to that woman. Oh, by the way, I forgot. By the way, I have a whole nother file here with different article links in it. I forgot to save, so we will save that as extra news. And you can't see this, but I'm saving those extra links that we found about the psilocybin and the light after you die. Actually, those two things could be a show in and of themselves. So I'll save that and stick that in the radio file there. Okay. A lot of times, just to add a little note onto the making of the TST episode show tonight, or more like live stream tonight. It's on a show. Um, I will uh, I will just scroll. I guess I could show you. Let me show you. We're not going to prepare another show because it would take forever. But let me show you something here. Let me share my screen again. Let me show you the social media scroll. This is the one I hate the most. But like if I go to X, my algorithm is so effed. I have no idea what it's going to show. Probably that Rabbi Shmuley thing. Although I got to be careful scrolling through this because you can't post certain political things on here if Elon Musk doesn't like them. Just like you couldn't post certain things and the liberals controlled it. But they allow porn, so you got to be careful. If I see porn, then YouTube's going to flag it probably. But sometimes I scroll through, I don't see anything. There's the Trump Qatar story. Yeah, I don't buy the whole Netanyahu separated from Trump thing. I don't buy that at all. Florida Panthers minority. What did the Florida Panthers minority owner say? I like hockey. This is not a show, but then you get lost in what's on social media. What did this person say? In an outrageous and deeply troubling move, the NHL suspended Doug Seafood, the Jewish minority owner of the Florida Panthers. Some of you are condemning Hamas and calling out anti-Semitism. Oh, another reason to like the NHL. By the way, the person that posted that, Awesome Jew, I've blocked them several times. They just keep popping up on my page. It's magical how that happens. It's another reason to like the NHL. See, I hate these articles. Okay, look at this. Fact check by the People's Voice. The People's Voice is fraud. It's not real. It's fake. It's bullshit. And if you wanted to prove it, like, yeah, there's probably mRNA jabs for cows, like there are actually genetically engineered cows to withstand heat and modified cows with mRNA. Yeah, that's true. But the People's Voice is a bullshit quote news site that doesn't usually even post links to things. It's just, and I think they even use AI news presenters. It's a nonsense website, but people love the People's Voice. And see, that's what pisses me off is that you can post trash like this, thousands of responses, hundreds of thousands of comments. And then if you go to my page where I just showed you how I do the direct research into the actual, like, for example, the for last night's show, the executive orders, and find the executive order show where I talk about the executive orders and the drug cost scam. Oh, they're at 54 people. Nobody gives a shit. Here's the actual executive order linked up. There's the right tags. And look how many people see it, 81. So when you sit here and you go through and you post things that are directly from like the White House website, HHS, DOJ, FBI, etc., nobody cares. But if you post some fucking bullshit from the People's Voice, which is a fake website, then people just share it, hundreds of thousands of them. Excuse me, I get really irritated by that because I've done this for 15 years and I've watched the truth be co-opted and turned into that garbage and trash. So nothing really stood out to me on X, and Facebook doesn't seem to give me anything if I search for it on my computer. I have to scroll through to my phone. I don't know what's going to show up, but sometimes an article pops up. And I'm like, oh, that article could be used. I don't think Facebook is even going to load. Okay, so you get the point. You get the idea. Nothing else popped up. All right, I think it's pretty much time to end this. But before we do, let me ask you this. Does anybody in the chat, we have a lot of people watching, listening. Anybody in the chat have any questions, any comments, anything to share, any ideas for the show, etc.? I don't know if they jab the red heifer. Great question. Probably, probably not, because they have to keep it pure. They have to make sure that it's prepared in a certain way. I don't remember reading that in the Bible. Does it say that in the Bible? They have to inject it with mRNA. Where do you think those mRNA vaccines came from? They're probably largely Israeli. That's where a lot of that technology comes from. Any other questions? Like, do they jab the red heifer? Probably don't jab it. But if nobody has any questions, we have to give it a second to catch. I mean, what I'm saying, to catch up with people. Then I will end the stream. Some of you probably going to go listen to Ground Zero in a couple minutes, so probably should end the stream soon. Noka says, any interest in the subject of astronomy? Absolutely. I have a whole, well, it's astrology, astronomy, a whole section on that in my Occult Arcana book. I do enjoy the subject of astronomy. And just because NASA does use AI generated images or computer generated images for space doesn't mean I think space doesn't exist, doesn't mean I think the Earth's flat or that the Earth's a dome. And I think that there's like truth or something like that in the middle of all of these nonsensical claims. But yeah, I have an interest in astronomy. I guess define astronomy, but I guess I have an interest in astronomy. Yes. All right. So while people put their questions or comments in the chat, if there are any more, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. The show airs Monday through Friday. It's on Spreaker. It's on Apple. Please listen. If you don't want to hear the ads, you can subscribe. The links are below in this YouTube video as well. If you want to do what some other listeners are doing, and that is put Spreaker on, turn the volume down, and then just let the show play. And that actually would help us because it plays the ads, and then we get paid when it plays the ads. So that would actually help the show out quite a bit. I'll show you. Wonder if I can find TST Radio Spreaker. So if you go to TST Radio, the Spreaker page, and you can just turn it on and let it play, and that would help the show out immensely. Put best ofs in the archive on the weekend. See best ofs there. Main shows Monday through Friday. All right, please subscribe. Please grab a book. Support the show. Totally independent. Look, nobody's here telling me what to do. See, nobody here. Just in my little room, using my memory, using my intellect, using my radio knowledge over the years. Thank you, Sel, for putting Spreaker on 24/7. That really helps the show out. Appreciate that immensely. I'm just a person like all of you are, and I get like really sad sometimes when I sit here and I do all that, and then I watch somebody post some garbage from before it's news or the new versions of that, and I'm like, are you? So I would just, if I woke up and didn't stress and just basically did whatever I wanted, and then wrote some nonsense, I would probably be making a lot of money and I would be better off. It's kind of depressing, isn't it? Especially when this is an art form and people are, on average, don't have time. So they prefer like a 5-second clip on their phone as opposed to like an actual investigation of something. But I know I'm just complaining. Complaining's not popular, but I'm a human, and I'm real. And I don't think that it's really a good way to inform yourself to just take things at face value in a 5-second clip. That stuff really ticks me off. All right, I think that's pretty much it. 2 hours and 40 minutes. My God, most of the time it takes about 45 minutes to do a show. Yes, whiskey, it's really frustrating. But hey, you people like you guys want to hear, I wouldn't say it's the truth. People like you guys want to hear something unique and something new, so that's why you tune in. That's great. God, no, Rabbi Shmuley's not standing over my shoulder. Oh my God. Not up above me or outside or anything like that. Nope, no Rabbi Shmuley. The only thing I have in here is my, I don't know if I could even show you my, I think I could show you my, my window with my little alien and my little crystal skull and some stuff from the Revolutionary War Museum and whatnot. No Tengu here. I know the Japanese to ward off the Tengu. All right. I hope that everybody has a great evening, a great night. I know some of you are going to go listen to another radio show right now. Check out our Spreaker if you haven't listened to the show. There's always a new show Monday through Friday, best ofs on the weekend. Click the links below. Share this YouTube stream. Share the links to the shows. Go back and find random shows and share them. It would really help the show out. I appreciate it. tstradio.info, rdgable@yahoo.com. If you have any questions, rdgable@yahoo.com. And what you heard tonight, the preparations, again, will be available Thursday in the archive. So that'll be kind of cool to go and watch or watch this and then go listen to that. All right. Have a great night. Auf Wiedersehen. Sayonara. Matane. Bye bye. So long. Farewell.